The preliminary advice I have received from the Treasury this weekend is that the economic impact of the virus on New Zealand could be greater than the impact of the global financial crisis. The difference, of course, is that there is no existing playbook for the economic response here. Of course, at this point, we cannot be sure of the impact, but we can be sure it will be significant. What tomorrow's package will do is demonstrate that we are willing to act decisively, to give us much certainty as we can in uncertain times, and that the hard work we put in during our first years in office to get debt low has meant that we are prepared for this rainy day. I want to speak briefly to the issue of mass gatherings. Within the next month, approximately 107 events that are each expecting over 1,000 attendees are scheduled to take place in Auckland, Waikato, Wellington and Christchurch alone. Our job as a government is to limit the potential spread of the virus to ensure the health of New Zealanders. As I've likened it to before, it's about flattening the curve, or as I've heard some say, instead of a tidal wave, reducing it down to a number of small manageable waves. That is our focus. To slow the spread of COVID-19, reducing the number of people infected, and to protect those who are more vulnerable to severe illness, today Cabinet agreed that gatherings of 500 or more people held outdoors or indoors should be cancelled. This applies to non-essential events such as festivals, fairs, sporting, religious and cultural events. While it currently excludes schools and universities, the Ministry of Education will be working with these institutions to reduce these gatherings as they are able to. I'm advised this initial criteria will capture the bulk of events coming up over the next few weeks and give those event organisers certainty. But these are not the only requirements we will be setting out on mass gatherings. Today we focused on larger gatherings. There will be further guidance issued later in the week, and we will be very, very clear in developing that guidance so that it gives a really clear pathway to help event organisers to determine whether they can mitigate some of the issues around larger gatherings or whether or not they should indeed be cancelled. That will be the focus of further work this week. Ultimately, though, I know that this decision is hugely disappointing. I know it will have an impact on a large number of communities. I'm acutely aware as the Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage the impact this will have on the arts sector, but we are making this decision in the best interest of New Zealanders. Finally, I want to comment on border issues. There will be zero tolerance for those who do not follow the rules of self-isolation. Cabinet has given approval for temporary visa holders, those entering into New Zealand, to be liable for detention and deportation if they do not comply with instructions from a medical officer of health relating to a quarantinable or infectious disease. This reinforces how serious we are about protecting the health of New Zealanders and will encourage visitors to comply with our rules or leave voluntarily if they don't wish to do so. Remember that anyone who is deported faces serious and ongoing consequences, including high chances of being refused future visa applications here and in many other countries. I consider this really a message and warning to those who choose to come to New Zealand. We are a country who take our roles and responsibility of being hospitable guests very, very seriously. But in return, we ask that visitors reciprocate. We will look after you if you look after us. If you come here and have no intention of following our requirements to self-isolate, frankly, you are not welcome, and you should leave before you are deported. Finally, I confirm that I will no longer travel to Vietnam in April. This will be obvious to most of you. This is following, though, Vietnam, the government's decision over the weekend to postpone the ASEAN Leaders Week, including the ASEAN New Zealand Commemorative Summit. I am now open to taking your questions. Come in the front.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Kia ora.
So you talked about gatherings. Will there be like schools and universities? Are they going to be closed in that area?
So we have excluded schools and universities from the requirements around the cancellation of mass gatherings over 500, but we are asking the Ministry of Education to work with those institutions where they may have environments where that number of students may be congregating together to try and mitigate against that. What we're very mindful of is actually most universities will have the flexibility to try and reduce down the size of some of their lectures, use multiple meeting spaces in different ways. Some schools, though, are large and operate open learning environments. We need to work with them closely to try and make sure they can comply with this guidance.
Are you rolling out open schools and universities?
I've been asked that many times to date. What I want to be really clear on is that there are different models out there around the world that have had different experiences with COVID-19. We do not want to be Italy. We do not want to be those countries who have experienced mass outbreak. But actually, those countries that we do want to mirror, the likes of Taiwan, haven't en masse shut down their schooling systems. They have, for instance, some countries, Singapore and others, you will have seen that they might have done different things with school holidays. What we're going to do is make sure that we take the actions that are required to keep New Zealanders safe, but I'll listen to the evidence and advice around what is the best way to do that. We haven't taken that decision at this point because we're being told that that is not where New Zealand is at, nor necessarily would it protect and preserve the health of New Zealanders.